Hello and welcome. You've got everything turned on. Hello and welcome to the December 1st, 2021 Planning Commission meeting for the City of Norwood. It's 3:30 p.m. Secretary Town, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Schneider?
Present.
Safety Service Director, no. Or
Present.
Powers.
Present.
Mrs. Kelly? Mrs. Sickinger?
Present.
Hockney?
Present.
I would like to recognize that our Community Development Director, Mike Skelly, is also in attendance today. We're going to start out with old business. There is no old business, so we'll move on to business. So that's really we have two public hearings, and we'll start out by opening the first public hearing. First public hearing is Lingenfelter, VP of Development for PLK, is requesting the Planning Commission approve a minor modification to the existing planned unit development plan for an open space to a 1,100 square foot single-story jewel box retail space. Commissioner Bly has determined this to be a major change to the existing planned unit development plan, requiring recommendation from the Planning Commission to Norwood City Council. So with that, we will open public hearing for discussion. Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of the modification? Anybody who would like to speak in favor of the modification, please step forward. Please state your name and address loudly and clearly, and then you may proceed.
Thank you, sir. Nicholas Lingenfelter, 101 Lexington Drive. I live in Loveland. Speaking on behalf of the developer, the request in front of you today is to add what we call a retail jewel box. What that is a small retail space of approximately 1,100 square feet that'll sit in the middle of the park. This will be occupied by a tenant, which we have secured, and them coming to the site is subject to us making sure that the city and everyone is okay with it. This space is purely a small retail space with 12 to 15 seats inside, and a lot of it is actually designed to be built around the outdoor space and park that we have on the facility. So a lot of you are actually new since our original preliminary PUD, but it actually was on the original preliminary PUD plan, and this was added. We removed it from the final because we didn't have a tenant, and it was a very expensive building to build without physically having a tenant. So we didn't want to promise something we didn't know we could get. We have since signed an LOI, which is a letter of intent to occupy the space, with a well-known group out of Columbus. They have asked not to release their name at the current moment. I would be glad to do that in an executive session for them if I needed to. But the tenant wants to, again, verify that they can actually go in this space. So in the back of your packets, I have provided a sample building that they would look to occupy. This is a facility that is in the Carolinas right now. This is just a concept look. They would design a brand new building that would be a very signature style building and all of the approved materials in phase one. So it would tie with all of the phase one elements. It would be right in the middle of the park on Park Avenue, directly across from the food hall. So with that, I would be glad to answer any specific questions that you may have. Actually, let me step back. You see the two options on the new business. One of them was the building inspector believes, and we don't know. I want to hear what everybody's opinion is, but that this might need to go before council. Our opinion was none of the roads are changing. We're not adding more than 10% to the total retail on the site. And overall, the look and aesthetic and everything approved within the project meets the overall intent of the PUD. If you feel otherwise, we'll take this to council, and that's fine. I just want to provide why there's two options on there, because there was not really a definition of minor modification of the PUD within the zoning code. So
Okay.
that's why you see the two on there.
Okay, right now, we're in the public hearing, so we're not going to go into discussion or
Yep.
ask questions of you yet, but we might ask you to come back and open discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to speak in favor of the modification? Anybody who would like to speak in favor? Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak against the modification? Anybody that is interested in speaking against the modification? Okay. No one stepping forward. We will go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will have open discussion at this time. So if the commissioner would like to have Mr. Lingfelter step back to the mic and have some discussion with him, now would be the time to do so. Any commissioners have questions? So my understanding is that this particular public hearing that we just did is for one minor modification to the existing plan, the retail space. Mr. Skelly, is this, as you see this with the asterisks by it, this retail space, is this something that the Planning Commission cannot just approve, or does it really need to go to City Council with our recommendation?
There was a differing opinion. So Dan Bly, the chief building official for the city, looked at the request, and it was his belief that it would be considered a major change. Before you have a memo, and again, circling back, so I don't know if Dan Bly prepared an email or any written response beyond maybe a verbal discussion, but I took the liberty to prepare a memo which is dated, and hopefully in your package, November 15th, and going through how the policies are written right now for the PUD section 1155, going through the characterization of what is actually being proposed, which is a 1,100 square foot potentially retail restaurant pad, looking at a potential issue, which was, is it still adhering to the available open space, which in this case, the applicant's proposal still greatly exceeds. I came to the conclusion that it does not really rise to the occasion of a major change based on what I read in the zoning ordinance. So that's essentially what's captured in the 2 pages that you see in front of you. So I'm happy to kind of at least look further if there's questions related to that. I also prepared a quick schematic in terms of what the PUD process looks like, whether it's a major or minor. And typically, for example, for a major, it would have to go through both a preliminary review looked at by the Planning Commission and then Council, and then also with the final. So again, Dan Bly is recognized as the chief with regards to zoning ordinance interpretation. Mm-hmm. However, I think I had a slightly different review of it.
Okay. Open discussion.
Was on the original.
Yes, so the preliminary PUD, which was approved both by the Planning Commission and by City Council, did include that there. When we went to final it out, I would say roughly 60 to 90 days later, we had removed it at that point because it was such a specific space. And that kind of put us where we're at today. Should I probably have put it on there and then just maybe not built it till it was there? Yes. Unfortunately, that's not what we did. And that puts us here today. So understanding that I believe we could get on the January council meeting, if everybody felt more comfortable pushing it there, I'm glad to do that, because hopefully with our next one, that will be there as well, and it can go at the same time. So I respect your decision either way. So.
With you saying that, my preference would be that we do throw it on there. You've hit home runs every time you've went to City Council anyways. You've clearly communicated to them. You've been very articulate and able to bring council to the forefront. So I would make a recommendation to the commission that we approve the modification and that we send it to City Council for review and their final approval. That would be a motion that I would make.
Well, I will make that motion, Recommend the council to adopt these changes.
Can we have a second?
I'll second it.
First is Safety Service Director Powers, and second would be Jeannie Sickinger. Okay.
Mayor Snyder, are you ready for a roll call?
Please do call the roll.
Mayor Snyder?
Yes.
Director Powers?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Hockney?
Yes.
All in favor, voting aye, I think, right?
Present, voting aye, the motion passes. The recommendation will be made to council.
Thank you. Okay, let's start the next public hearing. Nicholas Lingenfelter, VP of Development for PLK, is requesting Planning Commission review and make recommendation to Norwood City Council for a modification of the existing planned unit development plan to include 1.72 acres in the northwest corner of the development with the proposed new build of a restaurant and pickleball facility. Commissioner Bly again has recommended that this is a change that should go in front of the Norwood City Council after Planning Commission's purview. So with that, we will open up the public hearing portion of it. May we have anybody that is interested in speaking for the modification? Please step forward, state your name clearly, and tell us what you got.
Nicholas Lingenfelter, again with PLK Communities. The request in front of you today is to build a pickleball facility on the approximately 1.7 acres along the rail line. So between the old factory that everyone sees now and the current train line. This is something that's been in the works for a few months, and this is a true third-party sale transaction of the property. The whole development had a final PUD, but this portion, as well as the land along the highway, was not finalized out. So this is the request to final out that triangle portion, which we will be going before our city council, provided that everyone supports it as well, for their support too. So what I do want to point out, and I'll make sure I pass around as well, is the schematic drawings in the back of your packet are accurate. The renderings that we had on the front was an older rendering, so I asked the client to go ahead and update that so you guys can see a true current set of what we have. So I will pass those around as well.
Thank you, Mr. Skelly.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll kind of start with the overall look and design of what we're going to do, and then as well as explain the updated renderings you have. So again, the schematics in the back of the packet provided to everyone was the correct schematic, the one on the front. The original design had a monitor very similar to the Siemens facility just to the south. And ultimately what they decided to do is make the ceilings a little higher and put the glass at a lower level. That's the only major change to the overall look of what you see. They also added, there's 11 pickleball courts that'll be on the facility, 5 indoor, 5 outdoor, and then they have the one that's covered that can become an additional seasonal pickleball court. This was a new sport to me, as many people, but it is one of the fastest growing sports in America. We're seeing a lot of public facilities convert to pickleball courts. I believe Norwood recently did some of theirs as well. The owners of this development have toured other facilities across the country and see a great opportunity here because we don't really have a true dedicated pickleball facility entertainment venue. It is a true entertainment venue that it really is to bring the community together. They have outdoor yard play games. They've actually built part of their bar open to the dog park so people can have like a dog-friendly area as well. It truly is integrated into the overall development. And we like that aspect because for us, it just provided another amenity to bring people there. It will help increase daytime traffic, so they'll have league play, so whether it's senior league play during the day, as well as tournaments. They want to hold 5 or 6 regional tournaments a year at this facility as well. And we just felt like it was a really good option to create something new for not just us, but for the community in general. So The overall investment for the group represents almost an $8 million investment in our property. And again, this is outside of our development. So the original plans called for this site to be residential. From a residential standpoint, it wasn't a great benefit to the city because it likely would have qualified under some type of tax abatement agreement that we already have today. And overall, we felt it was really good because it is money that will immediately come to the city and schools once it is completed. Again, this is a third-party sale. We'll have cross easements, everything else in place to facilitate that. So they're looking to do about $3.5 million a year in average revenues. Some of the other facilities we've seen have done 4 and 5. And this is something that we have tested out. I have personally toured 3 of them in different states to make sure it is something that fits within the overall look. So we appreciate that they kept the factory aesthetic. And again, it's just another opportunity to bring jobs and something else to the site. When we are looking at it, trying to find a way to attract office tenants, we want to not just give them the food hall, entertainment options, places that people can do things. We want to create that unique destination that people want to open that office. So a lot of what we've been doing over the past couple of months is saying, how do we attract the office users and get that site completed along the highway? So with that, I think there's a lot of other information here, but I'd be glad to answer any specific questions once we close the public portion.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else in the room that would like to speak for the modification? Looking for anybody who would be interested in speaking for the modification. Okay, we will open it up for anybody who wants to speak against the modification. Anybody that wants to speak against? No one? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing, and we will go to open discussion. And this would be a good chance to ask Mr. Lingenfilter if he played pickleball at the 3 different facilities that he toured. Did he actually play? Actually play?
I played it at least 2.
Okay.
There you go. I reserved court time at 3. I didn't just show up and take their time, and I also ordered food and drinks. So what I can tell you was we were impressed by the just, overall community space with the fire pits and other gathering areas, and when they have Super Bowl parties. It's just how do we create that additional element to the development? And yeah, I personally enjoyed it. Our owner Peter is an avid pickleball player, plays almost 5 days a week. A lot of people I know have become very big into the sport. It's fantastic to see. So tennis became a game that a lot of people stopped playing, and it's good to see a lot of those courts and spaces reused. And again, this just gives that elevated experience that people are looking for right now. A lot of them can go to the park, but we want them to go to the park. We want them to stay in the city and spend money. And this allows them to stay in the area and spend money. So.
Any other questions?
I love the idea that it's opening up to the dog park and that you can have a cocktail while your dog's running around. I do love that aspect.
And we've done it truly separated as well. So you have the bar on both sides. So if people don't want to be intermixed with dogs, it allows you just to stay on one side of the facility.
Will it be a restaurant at that facility, or will it work in conjunction with the food hall?
It's going to work in conjunction with the food hall. So one of the agreements that we had was we were concerned that they might want to have a specific menu item or other exclusions that we just weren't open to. And the food hall is basically right across the street. So what they're still working through is, do we go with certain vendors? Do we have, our food hall will operate on a QR system. So that's one of the larger ones do. You can order from your phone. They'll have boxes where they can bring the food over, deliver that. They're still working through some of that logistics, but we really wanted to support the other businesses on the site and felt that there's no need to have another kitchen over there when we already have 14 across the street.
I know that a question that would come up would be the above-ground detention that was going to be in place in that corner that's now going to be below ground, and the added expense of that is worthwhile. I mean, the city is definitely interested in making sure that the excess stormwater that's running is detained.
That detention is going in right now and is about a $250,000 investment that they are making. That is not paid for under our TIF. There wasn't enough funds.
Another point that I would make is right on the other side, if you took a helicopter and went straight up, and you can look over and see our 3 tennis courts, which is actually 2 tennis courts, 3 tennis courts, plus a pickleball, 2 pickleball courts, which will be pretty much within earshot. You might not be able to see it. And then our new recreation building, actually both both at the recreation center and at the community center, will have the ability to play indoor pickleball. So it is a craze. It's a sport that the city has sort of embraced. So this is going to be exciting. I'm impressed with this one. I definitely want this to go to council because I think the council members will be extremely happy to see this, and it's sort of an exciting part of it. So I guess you can tell which way I'm leaning towards this facility. So, any other discussion or points?
I have just one. Do you have any estimates about what kind of traffic impact that will have?
Yeah, so we did a rough car impact. We've actually, some of the ones we studied, so we went to Kansas City and Oklahoma City and looked at some of their facilities. On average, they see for a facility roughly of this size about 50 to 70 cars. So in the packet, we did an analysis of how that would impact the overall traffic. And then what we did was we applied a percentage ratio, assuming that you can't count all the cars. So I think we said we're about 70, 75 cars, and we applied 55 specifically for this property because you might come here, then go to the food hall. You might come here, then go to the brewery. You might come here. So we didn't want to double count those cars. And we also understand that, you know, even for the brewery, like some of the people might be our residents already. So we use those sharing ratios and we applied that, and there's more than sufficient cushion within the overall project. What I will say is, we are already working on how we get that office out of the ground because we know down the road we will need another parking garage facility by the time we build out that additional space down there.
I guess that one other question that I would have, Nick, is with the facility, with the whole Factory 52 site, is there a walking path or a fitness path around the facility? I don't see anything going around this pickleball facility. Clearly, we had the detention above ground that wasn't going to be as attractive as this will be. But is there, maybe there is already something set that's a fitness trail, and that's just something that I know that office staff like to have, you know, get a lunch and then go and take a quick walk. And
There is no dedicated trail all the way around the site, but the sidewalk in front of here, as well as the dog park, is what we view as our future extension to go underneath the bridge by the highway when we figure out some way to tie all this together. That has always been kind of our connector point that we have been looking at. So whether it's, you know, tying there to walk up park or come somehow down and tie in park down the road, the intent has always been to the sidewalk along this portion of the property is that connector sidewalk through our development.
I'd also like to point out that in some of the renderings that you just passed out, between the street, it looks like there's a landscape area and also some street trees, which really is something that our tree board in our city has tried and wants to continue to implement on all these developments. So I appreciate you've added that aspect of it too.
And all those trees comply with your overall PUD as well, sir.
Anything else on this? So we'll close the, we already closed the hearing, excuse me. I'll ask for a motion on this one.
Move that we recommend the change be adopted by City Council.
First is by Noah Powers. Second by Mr. Hockney, Commissioner Hockney. Call the roll?
Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Director Powers?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hockney?
Yes.
The motion is approved, and there will be a recommendation to council.
Thank you. That closes the public hearing portion of the meeting at 4 o'clock. What is it? 55. So now we'll open the Planning Commission meeting for December 1st, 2021, a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Director Powers?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hockney?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 6th, 2021 meeting?
I move that we approve the minutes from the October 6th meeting.
Second?
First from Sandra Kelly and second from Director Powers. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Director Powers?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hockney?
Yes. Okay, let's move into new business. This guy, I don't know, he seems like he's always in front of us. Nicholas Lingenfelter, VP of Development for PLK, submitted proposed addresses for the Factory 52 development. Mr. Lingenfelter?
I took your advice when you told me not to come every month. Try to stack them all
Add a
up.
few
So
up, yeah.
you didn't also ask, I'm not very good at pickleball either. So I tried. The proposed addresses in front of you are kind of a combination of the recently approved streets that came through the Planning Commission. So when we approved those street names of Maverick, Park, the extension of Park, Morgan Way, Bicycle Boulevard, and then the Kenilworth, which is already a known street as well, we needed to actually have dedicated addresses for the property. So it started to create an issue recently where we need to do our utility hookups and IBI, which is the Utility Inspection Bureau. Even on our current foundation right now, we've got a hold because we need to tie in the electric, but they won't do it until we have physical addresses. So Carrie graciously helped me work through some of the numbers here. I know there may be some adjustments that need to be made. The critical one to actually have an address at this point right now is that central green building because we need to pour the rest of that concrete. And they won't let us hook up. So the other ones I will note here, and this has been something we're trying to figure out, the clock tower actually needs to have a separate legal address. So the submission you have and the clock tower amenities building behind it need to be two separate addresses. So what I believe they do need to be is 4590 Beach, which was always the historic address of the property, should be the clock tower itself. And then the amenities building behind it, we need to go 10 to 30 above, whatever that is. The reason why is because it will have separate utility service and it will need to have a separate legal address to have that. So that's the primary request here. The only two buildings that don't have their permits in yet are what we call the brewery tap room space and the existing factory. So other than that, all the other permits are currently in, and we will need to get addresses tied to those permits as quickly as possible. So if there's any thoughts or suggestions otherwise, please let us know. And again, we did our best to kind of line them up with the blocks and everything else.
Okay. Mrs. Town, do you have any suggestion on the amenity building? Is it something we want to revise this to add the amenity building number on Beach Street? Do you have a number on that?
I have a number on that.
10 above would just be 4,600?
I wonder whether Park may be a better street for that if that building is not fronting Beach, if that may cause some confusion.
It technically is fronting Beach. When you're coming down the street, you'll actually see the sides of that building go outside of the clock tower. So if you look just to the north and the south of the clock tower, you can actually see the doors that are entrances to that building. It was designed to frame it and look like it's there, but because they are truly independent structures, that's why they're not attached.
Okay, so if I'm looking head on at them, they're essentially designed to appear like one property.
Correct. We're not opposed to a change of park. I'm just so you know, yeah, you'll see the front from Beach Street.
I guess we need consensus on making it 4600 Beach Street first, and then we would need a motion to accept the address numbers with the modification in front of us. So first consensus on 4600 Beach. Anyone opposed to that? Okay. So the clock tower would be 4590 Beach, which is the historical address of the factory that was there. Makes sense. It's a historical clock tower. And then 4600 Beach would be the amenity building directly behind the clock tower on Beach Avenue, or on Beach Street. And I have a motion to, well, maybe there's discussion on some other addresses that you guys have looked through. No other discussion. I'll ask for a motion from the commissioners on acceptance with the modification.
Do those need to be separate motions? One modify and one to accept it with the modification?
It'll be one motion unless Carrie tells me it's not that way.
Okay. Well, I'll move that the addresses be adopted with the modification that the clock tower be 4590 Beach and the amenity building be 4600 Beach, and adopted otherwise.
First by Director Powers. Second?
I second that.
Second by Mrs. Sickinger. Please call the roll.
Mayor Schneider?
Yes.
Director Powers?
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger?
Yes.
Mr. Hawking?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, next thing on the agenda under new business is as per 1115.05 duties of the Planning Commission and 1117.03 staff recommendation that the commission authorize and initiate a zoning ordinance text amendment and recommend to City Council a change to the permitted uses within the central business district, specifically to add clinic and hospital and banquet exhibition and or meeting hall, as well as other suitable land uses. And we have some information from Mr. Skelly. I don't think we're looking for action on this as much as a green light to move forward, and then he would come back later. But Mr. Skelly, if you'd
Correct.
give us
So,
clarification.
Giving you a reprieve from, Nick, and then you could look at my ugly face for a couple of minutes. So what I'm requesting from the Planning Commission is authorization to proceed with a zoning ordinance text amendment, specifically for the central business district zone. What we're looking for, without drilling too much in terms of the details, for that area, and it's rather small, and specifically concerning the quality insight, we may have some interest in a particular use, and unfortunately, the way the range of uses is structured, we noticed that at least for kind of professional office, medical office, that it wasn't clearly specified to allow for potentially that range of uses that could be successful to a new developer or tenant. So it kind of made sense at least take the initiative to provide that to clean it up. So the ordinance that you see in front of you includes that use as well as a couple others which were given rise in the relaunch the Pike. So it's kind of killing two birds with one stone. And to me, I would be consistent and, at least fortuitous for that particular zone. So.
Okay, thank you. So as I stated earlier, we don't need, we're not actually looking for a specific motion to do this as much as the green light to Mr. Skelly to move forward with this, which will then come to us on the January meeting, and then would be reported out at that time to go in front of City Council. So I don't know that we need a motion as much as we just need consensus of the commissioners to say, sounds like a good plan. Okay, Mr. Kelly?
Thanks.
Mr. Skelly, it sounds like you have the green light to move forward with that.
Excellent, thanks.
All right, thank you. And then the next part on it is for communications, Nick Lingenfelter, VP of Development for PLK, if you don't know who he is, presenting an update to the final unit counts in Phase 1A of the Factory 52, the biggest development that's going on in the city, that's the biggest one for years. So Nick, if you would.
Thank you, sir. We just wanted to go ahead and send an overall memo because I was reviewing the overall zoning code while I was filing the other things and realized that Norwood had a provision that said that the final PUDs needed to provide any updates or any type of changes, so that way if there wasn't anything major down the road, somebody wasn't surprised. So what I wanted to do was the overall PUD allowed up to 600 units. There was an overall density that was originally approved, and we had anticipated originally 325 units in the current phase. We're going to be at 306 units, And I also wanted to provide the final unit mixes. The biggest change was in the factory building. We were originally going to do those as 1-bedrooms with den. We found a way to make them full 2-bedrooms. So we made the top floor all 2-bedrooms, and then we've also been able to squeeze in 6 3-bedrooms. So we're able to get some larger units that hopefully will entice a different clientele as well. And then we were also able to add some units on the 3rd floor of the parking garage. So that's just the overall combined number. But otherwise, everything was within all the numbers we presented. We just wanted to make sure we were providing you final numbers and final counts, so if there was ever a need for reconciliation of any sort, there was a record with the city. So, and you want me to talk about the other one as well? Okay, so there was one other thing I wanted to add here. Mr. Skelly and I have been working with our team on what's known as the Community Entertainment District, and we did want some guidance too. Norwood is basically capped out on a lot of the liquor licenses available in the area. So what we've been working on is a parcel over 20 acres in the state of Ohio can qualify as what's known as a Community Entertainment District and open up a separate bucket of licenses dedicated for that area. You don't have to be the owner. The city can kind of figure out how it all works. They can make a bigger area. They could tie down to the police area if they wanted to. But what we wanted to just bring in front of you today is find out a way or the process you want us to follow. Understanding that we're opening, I believe it's October 17th of next year, right now is the target date. We want to get ahead of all those licenses. So if that needs to come to Planning Commission, right now our analysis says it just goes to council, but we didn't know if there's another board, if there's anything else we need to do. We want to make sure we're understanding the process now, that all the tenants, like the pickleball facility and everybody else, has the assurances they need that they can get their licenses before they open. So.
Mr. Skelly, you have any input or guidance on that for the commission?
Sure. So when I first heard about this 3 weeks ago through Appeals Case Counsel, so I was kind of suspect. Anyways, I did my own independent research. I'll hand out the spreadsheet which I prepared looking at our allocation, and it's absolutely correct. So based on how these things are allocated, how they were distributed through the various years, a solution was offered that if we would categorize a Factory 52 as a community entertainment district, it would open up some additional permits and kind of specific to that area. So it's kind of a unique way of going about the quota system that the state has, and it's similar when I came from Pennsylvania. So at this point, I believe everything they're saying is true. It doesn't seem to be a very cumbersome process. It would require a hearing from council. The request, I guess, would come through your council directly to the mayor, and then you would have to guide it through the process. So I have some literature that I could provide to the Planning Commission meeting, but I believe it's something out of reach in terms of the Planning Commission meeting. I think Nick is bringing here as a courtesy to you and explain the process, but it's really a process as directed through the mayor. So,
I do want to add one other thing to that as well. While they're dedicated to that area, they have to apply just like anybody else. So there's no, you're just giving me for a liquor license, or that's not what's going on. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that too. They have to apply like everybody, but it designates a quota specifically over this area, as well as anywhere else the city wants to tie into it. So another reason we're bringing it up is if you foresee an area down the road that you want tied into it, or the buildings behind us, or something else, I don't know, but we might as well do it on one application while we're paying for it, and somebody else can tie into that because our attorneys will be paying the costs anyway. So if that's something the city wants to do, just let us know. And again, you're not giving us anything. People have to apply like they would normally apply.
Commissioners have any thoughts on that?
Do you know what the quota is? How many you're going to be requesting?
We would request at 4. That's all we're legally allowed to request. We've been researching, understanding we probably need, well, let's start with this way. A brewery can qualify under a brewery permit, so we won't need one for that. We have a distiller we're talking to that they could apply under their own permit as well. And then that would give us 4 licenses. We believe we need anywhere between 5 to 7 total. So what we've looked at is, can we secure them and tie them in from other properties, tracks, and like, what else can we do that we make sure that we're not having a building that just can't open without a license? So we can only legally request 4 with our land. But there's no reason to say the city doesn't want to add other, if you want to add multicolor, you can add whatever you want. They really can't fight it. I mean, they can fight it, but there's not a way to stop it. So the city can decide what they want the long-term vision for that district to be, and then you can make your own quota for that area. But it's 1 for every 5 acres within the district that's created.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Under communications and miscellaneous, I would also like to bring out 2 letters that I have received. One is from Safety Service Director Murphy, previous Safety Service Director Murphy, who sent in a letter, although as the Safety Service Director, he's, per the revised code, is a member of the Planning Commission, and that's why we have Noah here so quickly. But John Murphy did send in a letter of resignation, and I would like to recognize his service to the Planning Commission and the good work that he did while working with the city. Second letter I received very recently, and it was from Commissioner Sandra Kelly, stating that she has other things going on and is not available to attend and be a member of the Planning Commission anymore, so she is stepping down from the Planning Commission. She had spoken to Bernie Sewer. Bernie Sewer has been involved with the with the Board of Zoning Appeals for many, many years. And Bernie has graciously accepted. I called Bernie and talked to him after she sort of made a recommendation to give him a call because she thought he would maybe work out. Bernie has accepted a position, so he would come on the Planning Commission. We are required by the Ohio Revised Code to have a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals on the Planning Commission also. So that person sort of is the liaison between both organizations. And Bernie has said that he will do that, so I will be appointing him January 1st to take on that role, and you'll see him coming on, and we won't see you anymore. You've been on the Planning Commission for 8 years or a while now?
Planning Commission for a year.
Planning Commission, right, I just put you there, but the Board of Zoning Appeals you've been on for a while,
For
too.
like 10 years?
10 years.
10 or 11, yeah.
So 10 years with the Board of Zoning Appeals, and you'll continue on the
Yes,
Board of Zoning
correct.
Appeals,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just this one. Okay, so it's not you, Tom, you're the new guy. She's not leaving because of you.
It only took 2 months.
So, yeah. So you'll see a couple of, we're seeing a few changes, which is natural. So that is it. I don't have anything else under communications or miscellaneous. Anything that we've missed? Okay. We don't need to excuse any absent members because everybody's here, glad to say. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second?
Seconded by,
Mayor Schneider,
yes.
Director Powers,
Yes.
Mrs. Kelly,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger,
Yes.
Mr. Hockney.
Yes.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.